The moment a Capricorn realizes you're about to waste their time with meaningless chatter, something fascinating happens inside their mind. You can literally watch their facial expression shift from polite attention to barely concealed frustration. And if you know what to look for, you'll notice their eyes start calculating exactly how many productive minutes they're losing to your aimless conversation. This isn't rudeness or coldness. It's the result of a deeply ingrained psychological framework that most people completely misunderstand about this ambitious Earth sign. Most Zodiac enthusiasts focus on Capricorn's legendary work ethic and their drive for success, but they completely miss one of the most defining characteristics of this Saturn-ruled sign: their absolute intolerance for communication that serves no constructive purpose. While other signs might politely nod through rambling stories or empty social pleasantries, Capricorns are internally screaming because every second of unfocused conversation represents a missed opportunity to move closer to their carefully planned goals. Understanding this aspect of Capricorn psychology reveals something profound about how their minds actually work. These individuals don't just prefer direct communication. They literally need it to function at their optimal level. Their brains are constantly running complex calculations about time investment, energy allocation, and the potential return on every interaction they choose to engage with. When someone forces them to participate in conversations that lead nowhere, it's like asking a race car driver to sit in traffic. Technically possible, but fundamentally against their nature. The really interesting part is how this communication style develops over time. Most Capricorns weren't born with this laser focus on conversational efficiency. They learned it through years of watching people talk their way through life instead of actually building anything meaningful. They've witnessed countless individuals who could describe their dreams in incredible detail, but couldn't take a single concrete step toward making them reality. This repeated exposure to the gap between words and actions has trained Capricorns to value substance over style, results over rhetoric, and commitment over casual promises. What makes their communication preferences even more complex is how frequently they get misinterpreted by other signs. When a Capricorn cuts through small talk to address the real issue at hand, people often perceive this as social awkwardness or lack of empathy. Nothing could be further from the truth. These Earth signs actually demonstrate profound respect for others by refusing to waste anyone's time on superficial exchanges. They believe that meaningful connections require honest, purposeful communication, and they're willing to risk appearing blunt in order to create space for genuine understanding. Their Saturn-ruled nature has taught them that life moves quickly, opportunities are finite, and every conversation represents a choice about how to invest their most precious resource, time. This perspective shapes everything about how they approach relationships, both professional and personal. They've learned to distinguish between people who use words as tools for building something real versus those who use talking as a way to avoid taking action. The 12 specific reasons we're about to explore aren't just personality quirks or astrological generalizations. They represent a sophisticated system that Capricorns have developed for protecting their energy, identifying reliable people, and maintaining focus on what actually matters. Each reason reveals a deeper truth about how these Earth signs process information, make decisions, and choose who deserves access to their carefully guarded time and attention. This brings us to the first set of factors that trigger their famous impatience with nonsensical communication. The first reason: time is money. Stop wasting both. Picture this scenario that every Capricorn has lived through countless times. Someone approaches them with what seems like a simple question, but instead of getting straight to the point, they launch into an elaborate backstory that includes their morning routine, what they had for breakfast, how the weather affected their mood, and 17 other completely irrelevant details before finally revealing what they actually need. During this entire monologue, the Capricorn's internal clock is ticking louder than a time bomb, calculating precisely how many productive minutes are evaporating into the void of unnecessary narrative. This isn't about being impatient or antisocial. Capricorns have developed an acute awareness of time as their most valuable currency, because Saturn, their ruling planet, has taught them that life operates on deadlines that don't negotiate. They've witnessed how successful people protect their time like a precious resource, while unsuccessful people treat it like an unlimited commodity that can be spent carelessly on meaningless activities. When someone rambles without purpose, they're essentially asking the Capricorn to make a terrible investment, trading focused energy for zero return. The psychology behind this time consciousness runs much deeper than simple efficiency preferences. Capricorns have usually sacrificed significant social opportunities, leisure activities, and instant gratification pursuits in order to build something substantial with their lives. They've chosen the difficult path of delayed gratification, understanding that today's focused effort becomes tomorrow's achievement. When someone forces them to participate in aimless conversation, it feels like a direct assault on the sacrifices they've made to maintain their disciplined approach to life. What makes this particularly frustrating for Capricorns is their ability to quickly assess whether a conversation has potential value or will simply drain their mental resources. Their earth sign nature gives them practical intelligence that can usually identify the core issue within the first 30 seconds of any interaction. When they realize that someone is going to take 20 minutes to communicate something that could be resolved in 2 minutes, their stress levels spike because they can see the inefficiency unfolding in real time. The second reason, they can smell fake motivation from miles away. Capricorns possess what can only be described as a supernatural detector for authentic versus manufactured enthusiasm. This ability has been refined through years of encountering people who talk passionately about goals they have absolutely no intention of pursuing seriously. Their Saturn-influenced wisdom has taught them to recognize the subtle differences between genuine commitment and performance-based motivation that's designed to impress others rather than drive real action. The overnight success mythology particularly offends their sensibilities because they understand exactly how much invisible work goes into any meaningful achievement. When someone tries to sell them on get-rich-quick schemes, miracle transformations, or instant expertise programs, Capricorns don't just roll their eyes, they feel genuinely insulted that someone would assume they're naive enough to believe such fantasies. Their practical earth sign nature has shown them that sustainable success requires patient construction, consistent effort, and the willingness to work through boring, unglamorous phases that social media never showcases. This heightened sensitivity to fake motivation stems from their own relationship with authentic ambition. Real Capricorns know what it feels like to wake up every morning and choose difficult tasks over comfortable ones. They understand the mental discipline required to maintain focus when results aren't immediately visible. They've experienced the lonely hours of preparation that nobody else sees or appreciates. When someone presents them with shortcuts or magical solutions, it diminishes the value of their own genuine efforts and suggests that their methodical approach might be unnecessarily difficult. Their ability to detect manufactured enthusiasm also extends to people who constantly talk about their big dreams, but never take concrete steps toward implementation. Capricorns have learned that authentic motivation reveals itself through consistent behavior patterns, not through elaborate verbal descriptions of future intentions. They've watched too many people get addicted to the emotional high of planning and talking about goals while avoiding the actual work required to achieve them. This pattern recognition helps them quickly identify who's genuinely committed versus who's simply enjoying the fantasy of success without the reality of effort. The third reason, empty promises trigger their trust issues. The relationship between Capricorns and reliability runs so deep that broken promises don't just disappoint them, they activate a complex psychological defense system that has been constructed through years of learning exactly how much damage unreliable people can cause to carefully planned objectives. These earth signs approach commitments with the seriousness of legal contracts because they understand that every promise creates a foundation for future decisions and actions. When someone makes casual commitments they can't fulfill, they're not just letting the Capricorn down in that specific moment. They're demonstrating a fundamental character trait that makes them unsuitable for any role in the Capricorn's long-term plans. These Saturn-ruled individuals have learned that people who can't be trusted with small promises definitely can't be trusted with larger responsibilities, and they use early interactions as testing grounds for determining who deserves deeper access to their professional and personal lives. The trust issues that develop aren't paranoia or overcautiousness. They're sophisticated risk management strategies based on empirical evidence about human behavioral patterns. Capricorns have typically experienced significant setbacks caused by depending on people who talked confidently about their intentions, but failed to deliver when action was required. These experiences have taught them that enthusiastic words without corresponding follow-through represent one of the most dangerous threats to their carefully constructed plans. What makes empty promises particularly triggering is how they interfere with the Capricorn's natural planning processes. These earth signs build their strategies around realistic assessments of available resources, including the reliability of people they're working with. When someone commits to contributing specific efforts or deliverables, the Capricorn incorporates that commitment into their overall timeline and resource allocation. Discovering that someone made promises they never intended to keep doesn't just create immediate inconvenience. It can derail entire projects and force emergency recalculations of previously settled plans. Their low tolerance for unreliable communication actually serves as a protective mechanism that helps them identify trustworthy individuals while filtering out people who view commitments as casual suggestions rather than binding agreements. This screening process might seem harsh to more flexible signs, but it's actually an essential survival strategy for people whose success depends on coordinating complex, long-term efforts that require dependable collaboration from others. The psychological impact goes beyond practical concerns because Capricorns typically invest significant emotional energy in their professional and personal relationships. They don't form connections casually, and they expect the same level of seriousness from others. When someone treats promises lightly, it signals a fundamental incompatibility in values that makes deeper relationships impossible. This isn't about perfectionism or unrealistic expectations. It's about recognizing that sustainable partnerships require mutual respect for commitments and shared understanding about the importance of following through on agreed-upon responsibilities. Understanding these three foundational reasons reveals how Capricorn communication preferences emerge from deeply held beliefs about time, authenticity, and reliability, rather than superficial personality quirks or social awkwardness. The fourth reason: they despise emotional manipulation tactics. When someone attempts to use guilt trips, crocodile tears, or dramatic emotional displays to influence a Capricorn's decisions, they're essentially declaring war on everything these earth signs value about honest communication. Capricorns have developed an almost forensic ability to distinguish between authentic emotional expression and calculated performance designed to bypass logical discussion and manipulate outcomes through psychological pressure. The sophistication of their emotional manipulation radar has been refined through countless encounters with individuals who discovered that raw facts and reasonable arguments weren't sufficient to get what they wanted from the practical Capricorn. These experiences have taught them to recognize the telltale signs of manufactured drama, the perfectly timed tears that appear when logical explanations fail, the sudden health crises that coincidentally emerge during important decision-making moments, and the elaborate, guilt-inducing narratives designed to make saying no feel like an act of cruelty. What particularly offends Capricorns about emotional manipulation isn't the presence of strong feelings. They actually respect genuine emotional expression and can be surprisingly supportive when someone shares authentic struggles or concerns. The problem arises when emotions are weaponized as tools for avoiding personal responsibility or circumventing normal decision-making processes. Their Saturn-influenced wisdom has shown them that healthy relationships require the ability to discuss difficult topics using both emotional honesty and logical reasoning, not theatrical performances designed to shut down rational conversation. The psychological impact of encountering emotional manipulation runs deeper than simple annoyance because it violates the Capricorn's fundamental belief in fair dealing and straightforward communication. These earth signs typically invest considerable effort in maintaining emotional equilibrium and approaching conflicts through structured problem solving rather than dramatic confrontation. When someone introduces manipulative tactics into what should be a collaborative discussion, it forces the Capricorn to divert energy from solution finding towards psychological defense, which they find both exhausting and counterproductive. Their resistance to emotional manipulation also stems from understanding how these tactics can derail important long-term objectives. Capricorns have usually worked too hard, building their professional and personal stability to allow manipulative individuals to create chaos through manufactured crises and artificial urgency. They've learned that people who resort to emotional manipulation rarely have sustainable solutions to offer and often create more problems than they solve through their dramatic approach to conflict resolution. The fifth reason, small talk about nothing makes them internally scream. The Capricorn relationship with small talk represents one of the most misunderstood aspects of their social personality. Other signs often interpret their discomfort with casual chatter as arrogance or antisocial behavior, but the reality is far more complex and rooted in their unique cognitive processing patterns. When forced to participate in conversations about weather patterns, celebrity gossip, or random observations about trivial daily occurrences, Capricorns experience something akin to mental static. Their brains are naturally wired to seek patterns, identify problems worth solving, and explore topics that connect to larger purposes or practical applications. Superficial exchanges about meaningless subjects don't just bore them. They actively drain the mental energy that could be channeled toward productive thinking and meaningful connection building. The psychological discomfort isn't about superiority or judgment toward people who enjoy casual conversation. Capricorns simply operate with a different social battery system than most other signs. While some people recharge through light social interaction and verbal processing of random thoughts, Capricorns gain energy from purposeful exchanges that either solve problems, build understanding, or strengthen relationships through shared goals and substantial discussions. Their struggle with small talk becomes particularly acute in professional environments where they're expected to engage in office pleasantries and networking conversations that feel artificially constructed and strategically shallow. They understand the social necessity of these interactions, but find themselves calculating exactly how many minutes of meaningful work time they're sacrificing to discuss topics that will be completely forgotten within hours. What makes this challenging is that Capricorns often possess fascinating insights and genuine interest in connecting with others, but they need conversational substance to access their natural engagement abilities. They thrive in discussions about long-term planning, creative problem solving, industry developments, personal growth strategies, or any topic that allows them to share their accumulated wisdom and learn from others' experiences. The frustration emerges when social conventions force them to maintain enthusiasm for exchanges that provide no intellectual stimulation or relationship-building value. Their preference for substantial conversation also reflects their respect for other people's time and intelligence. Capricorns assume that most individuals would prefer to engage in meaningful dialogue rather than fill silence with empty chatter, so they often feel confused when others seem to enjoy superficial exchanges that lead nowhere productive. This disconnect can create social awkwardness that reinforces their reputation for being difficult or standoffish, when they're actually attempting to honor what they perceive as universal preferences for purposeful communication. The sixth reason, they're allergic to excuse-making champions. Nothing triggers a Capricorn's internal frustration meter quite like listening to elaborate explanations about why external circumstances prevented someone from fulfilling their responsibilities or achieving their stated objectives. The phrase, "I would have done it, but," serves as an immediate warning signal that they're about to hear a creative storytelling session designed to transfer responsibility from the individual to various outside forces beyond their control. This allergic reaction to excuse-making stems from the Capricorn's fundamental philosophy about personal agency and accountability. Their Saturn-ruled nature has taught them that successful people distinguish themselves not by avoiding obstacles, but by developing problem-solving skills that help them navigate around, through, or over whatever challenges appear in their path. They've learned to view setbacks as information rather than excuses, using difficulties as data points for improving future strategies rather than justifications for abandoning efforts. The psychological framework that makes excuse-making so offensive to Capricorns involves their deep understanding of the difference between explanations and excuses. Explanations describe what happened and often include lessons learned or alternative approaches for future situations. Excuses, however, are designed to absolve the speaker of responsibility while positioning them as victims of circumstances that couldn't possibly have been anticipated or managed differently. Capricorns have typically built their success through accepting responsibility for outcomes even when external factors contributed to difficulties. They've learned that this mindset, while initially more challenging than blame shifting, ultimately provides them with greater control over their results and continuous opportunities for skill development. When they encounter people who automatically default to excuse-making, it represents a fundamental incompatibility in worldview that makes meaningful collaboration nearly impossible. Their impatience with excuse-making also connects to their practical understanding of resource allocation and opportunity cost. Every minute spent listening to elaborate justifications for why something didn't happen is time that could be invested in developing solutions for moving forward. Capricorns prefer to quickly acknowledge what went wrong, identify what can be learned from the experience, and redirect energy toward constructive action rather than defensive explanations. The deeper frustration emerges from recognizing that chronic excuse makers rarely develop the problem-solving resilience that leads to sustainable success. Capricorns have observed that people who consistently attribute their setbacks to external forces tend to repeat similar patterns because they never develop personal strategies for anticipating and managing predictable challenges. This pattern recognition helps explain why Capricorns often distance themselves from individuals who demonstrate persistent excuse-making behaviors, even when they genuinely like those people on a personal level. Their standards around accountability aren't about perfectionism or unrealistic expectations. They're about recognizing that personal growth and professional advancement require the ability to own outcomes and learn from both successes and failures without defensive rationalization. The seventh reason: unrealistic deadlines and magic thinking insult their intelligence. When someone approaches a Capricorn with a complex project and casually suggests it can be completed by tomorrow, or proposes that positive thinking alone will somehow accelerate timelines that require substantial technical work, they're essentially announcing their complete disconnection from reality. This kind of magical thinking doesn't just frustrate Capricorns, it fundamentally insults their professional intelligence and years of accumulated wisdom about how meaningful work actually gets accomplished. Capricorns have typically spent considerable time learning the intricate relationship between quality, resources, and realistic timeframes. They understand that rushing important projects inevitably leads to substandard results, stressed team members, and costly mistakes that require even more time to fix later. Their Saturn-influenced perspective has taught them that sustainable excellence requires adequate planning phases, appropriate resource allocation, and buffer time for the unexpected complications that experienced professionals know will inevitably arise. The psychological impact of encountering magical deadline thinking goes beyond simple scheduling frustration because it reveals fundamental differences in how people approach professional responsibility. Capricorns have usually built their reputations through consistent delivery of high-quality results within realistic timeframes, and they understand that this reliability becomes impossible when external pressure forces them to choose between speed and excellence. Their resistance to unrealistic expectations also stems from understanding how magical thinking creates cascading problems throughout entire organizations or project teams. When leaders make impossible promises to clients or stakeholders based on wishful thinking rather than practical assessment, It forces everyone downstream to either participate in the fantasy or become the bearer of bad news when reality inevitably intrudes. Capricorns have learned that honest communication about realistic timelines ultimately serves everyone better than optimistic projections that can't be fulfilled. What makes this particularly challenging is that Capricorns often possess exceptional ability to accomplish substantial work within tight timeframes when the constraints are genuinely necessary and the resource allocation is appropriate. Their natural efficiency and focus can produce impressive results that sometimes inadvertently encourage others to assume that all deadlines are equally flexible. However, these earth signs understand the difference between legitimate urgency and artificial pressure created by poor planning or unrealistic promises made to external parties. The deeper frustration emerges from recognizing that magical deadline thinking often masks deeper organizational problems like inadequate project management, poor resource planning, or leadership that prioritizes appearing responsive over delivering sustainable results. Capricorns prefer working environments where excellence is valued over speed and where professional standards are maintained even when external pressures attempt to compromise quality benchmarks. The eighth reason: they can't stand people who talk without expertise. There exists a particular type of conversational torture that Capricorns endure regularly. Listening to individuals confidently express strong opinions about complex subjects they clearly know nothing about. This isn't about intellectual elitism or gatekeeping knowledge. It's about respecting the fundamental difference between informed perspectives based on genuine study and random speculation presented as authoritative insight. Capricorns have typically invested significant time and energy developing genuine expertise in their chosen fields. They understand what it actually takes to move from surface-level familiarity to deep professional competence, and they can quickly recognize when someone is operating from Wikipedia-level understanding while speaking with PhD-level confidence. Their Saturn-ruled nature values the patient accumulation of knowledge through direct experience, mentorship from established experts, and honest acknowledgement of what they don't yet understand. The psychological framework that makes uninformed opinions so irritating involves their belief that real expertise serves important social functions. Genuine specialists help society make better decisions, solve complex problems, and avoid costly mistakes that result from acting on incomplete information. When people casually dismiss the value of specialized knowledge by treating their casual observations as equally valid to professional insights, it undermines the entire concept of developing expertise through dedicated study and practice. Their frustration intensifies when they witness uninformed opinions influencing important decisions that affect other people's lives, resources, or opportunities. Capricorns have usually seen how amateur advice can lead to serious consequences when applied to situations that require professional knowledge and experience. They understand that encouraging people to trust random opinions over qualified expertise can create genuine harm in areas like health decisions, financial planning, legal situations, or technical implementations. What makes this particularly complex is that Capricorns genuinely respect intellectual humility and honest questions from people who acknowledge their limitations while seeking to learn from those with more experience. They often enjoy sharing their knowledge with individuals who demonstrate genuine curiosity and appropriate respect for the complexity of specialized fields. The problem arises when people substitute confidence for competence and present uninformed speculation as reliable guidance. Their standards around intellectual honesty also reflect their understanding that becoming genuinely knowledgeable about complex subjects requires admitting ignorance as the starting point for real learning. They've typically experienced the humbling process of discovering how much they didn't know about topics they initially thought they understood, and they respect others who demonstrate similar intellectual integrity. The ninth reason: bragging about unearned achievements makes them cringe. Perhaps no behavior triggers stronger visceral reactions in Capricorns than witnessing people take credit for accomplishments they didn't actually earn through their own efforts. Whether it's claiming individual recognition for team achievements, exaggerating minor contributions into major victories, or presenting inherited advantages as personal accomplishments, this kind of credit stealing represents everything they find morally objectionable about dishonest success narratives. Capricorns have usually sacrificed significant comfort, convenience, and immediate gratification to build their achievements through genuine personal effort. They understand exactly what it feels like to work through difficult phases where progress is slow, recognition is minimal, and the temptation to give up feels overwhelming. Their commitment to earned success makes them particularly sensitive to people who shortcut the struggle while claiming the same level of accomplishment. The psychological impact goes beyond simple fairness concerns, because unearned credit claiming undermines the entire meritocratic system that Capricorns rely on for motivation and goal setting. These earth signs typically push themselves through challenging developmental phases by believing that hard work and genuine competence will eventually receive appropriate recognition. When they witness people receiving praise for accomplishments they didn't actually create, it challenges their fundamental faith in justice and merit-based advancement. Their reaction to achievement inflation also stems from understanding how false success narratives can mislead others who are trying to learn from supposed role models. Capricorns have typically benefited from studying the genuine strategies and work patterns of people who achieved authentic success through sustained effort and skill development. They understand that accurate information about what actually creates results helps aspiring individuals make better decisions about how to invest their own time and energy. What makes this particularly offensive is when achievement inflation occurs in contexts where other people are depending on accurate assessment of capabilities and track records. Capricorns have learned that successful collaboration requires honest evaluation of what each person can realistically contribute based on their actual experience and demonstrated competencies. When someone misrepresents their background or accomplishments, it can lead to inappropriate role assignments and project failures that affect entire teams. Their standards around achievement honesty also reflect their belief that genuine accomplishments deserve accurate recognition, while false claims dilute the value of real achievements and create unfair advantage for people willing to misrepresent their qualifications. They prefer environments where success is measured through objective criteria and where recognition systems reward actual performance rather than self-promotional skills. The deeper frustration emerges from recognizing that achievement inflation often correlates with other character traits that make reliable collaboration difficult, such as reluctance to acknowledge mistakes, tendency to blame others for problems, and inability to accurately assess project requirements or personal limitations. The 10th reason: they hate when people confuse busy with productive. The modern epidemic of busyness worship creates a unique form of psychological torture for Capricorns, who have spent years mastering the crucial distinction between motion and meaningful progress. When someone dramatically recounts their overwhelming schedule while producing zero tangible results, these earth signs experience something approaching existential horror because it represents everything they've learned to avoid in their pursuit of genuine achievement. Capricorns possess an almost supernatural ability to distinguish between activities that move them closer to their goals versus activities that simply consume time while creating the illusion of progress. Their Saturn-influenced wisdom has taught them that successful people protect their energy for high-impact tasks rather than filling their calendars with busy work that feels productive but accomplishes nothing substantial. They've learned to ask themselves whether each commitment serves a strategic purpose or merely satisfies their need to feel constantly occupied. The psychological framework behind their productivity standards involves understanding that time and energy are finite resources that must be allocated strategically rather than scattered across every available opportunity. They've typically experimented with different approaches to task management and discovered that doing fewer things exceptionally well produces superior results compared to attempting everything with mediocre execution. This experience-based knowledge makes them particularly sensitive to people who mistake activity levels for achievement metrics. What makes the busy versus productive confusion especially frustrating is how it often masks deeper problems with priority setting and decision-making capabilities. Capricorns have observed that chronically overwhelmed individuals frequently lack effective filtering systems for distinguishing between urgent requests and important objectives. They watch people exhaust themselves responding to every email, attending every meeting, and accepting every social obligation without evaluating whether these activities contribute to their stated long-term goals. Their impatience with false productivity also stems from recognizing how busy addiction can become a sophisticated form of procrastination that allows people to avoid confronting more challenging but essential tasks. Capricorns understand that meaningful work often requires sustained focus and deep thinking that can't be accomplished while constantly switching between surface-level activities. They've learned that protecting time for substantial work requires saying no to numerous smaller demands that feel urgent but aren't actually important. The deeper frustration emerges from watching people create artificial complexity in their lives through poor organizational systems and boundary management. Capricorns have typically developed efficient workflows and communication protocols that allow them to accomplish significant work without constant stress or dramatic scheduling conflicts. They find it genuinely puzzling when others choose chaos over systematic approaches that could eliminate most of their time management problems. The 11th reason: disrespecting traditional values and proven methods annoys them. When Capricorns encounter individuals who dismiss time-tested approaches simply to appear innovative or cutting edge, they experience a particular form of intellectual frustration that connects to their deep respect for accumulated wisdom and proven methodologies. This isn't about resistance to change or blind adherence to outdated systems. It's about recognizing that certain principles have survived multiple generations because they consistently produce reliable results across different contexts and circumstances. Their Saturn-ruled perspective has taught them to distinguish between genuine innovation that builds upon solid foundations versus superficial novelty that ignores valuable lessons learned through historical trial and error. Capricorns have typically benefited from studying established masters in their chosen fields, understanding how traditional approaches evolved to address recurring challenges that still exist today. They approach change as an optimization process rather than wholesale replacement of everything that came before. The psychological basis for their traditional respect involves understanding that humans tend to repeat similar mistakes across different eras unless they learn from previous generations' experiences. Capricorns have observed that people who reject traditional wisdom often rediscover the same fundamental principles through personal struggle, essentially recreating solutions that were already available through established knowledge systems. Their frustration with tradition-dismissing behavior intensifies when they witness people abandoning proven methods without fully understanding why those approaches were developed or what problems they were designed to solve. They've learned that sustainable innovation requires comprehensive understanding of existing systems before attempting improvements, and they can quickly recognize when someone is proposing changes based on incomplete analysis of current methodologies. What makes this particularly complex is that Capricorns often become highly skilled at identifying which traditional elements deserve preservation versus which aspects genuinely need updating for contemporary circumstances. Their practical earth sign nature helps them evaluate methods based on results rather than sentiment, but they understand that throwing away everything old rarely leads to better outcomes than thoughtful evolution of existing systems. Their respect for traditional values also reflects their understanding that certain human principles transcend technological or cultural changes. Concepts like integrity, reliability, patience, and systematic effort remain relevant regardless of how external circumstances evolve. They find it concerning when people dismiss these foundational values as outdated rather than recognizing them as timeless guidelines for building sustainable success. The 12th reason: they cannot tolerate people who don't honor their word. The final reason represents perhaps the deepest core value that shapes every aspect of how Capricorns approach relationships, professional collaborations, and personal commitments. Their belief that keeping one's word serves as the fundamental building block for all meaningful human interactions isn't just a preference, it's a non-negotiable standard that determines who gains access to their trust, time, and emotional investment. When someone treats promises casually by canceling plans at the last minute, consistently arriving late without genuine emergencies, or making agreements they never intended to follow through on, they're revealing character traits that make them fundamentally incompatible with the Capricorn approach to building reliable relationships. These earth signs have organized their entire lives around the principle that personal integrity manifests through consistent follow-through on commitments regardless of changing circumstances or competing priorities. The psychological framework that makes promise breaking so offensive involves their understanding that trust serves as the foundation for all complex collaborative efforts. Capricorns have learned that ambitious goals require coordinated action from multiple people over extended time frames, and this coordination becomes impossible when participants can't depend on each other's stated commitments. They view their own reliability as both a personal strength and a social responsibility that enables other people to make confident plans and investments. Their standards around commitment honoring also reflect their belief that character reveals itself through how people handle small promises as much as major agreements. Capricorns understand that someone who casually breaks minor commitments lacks the internal discipline and respect for others required to maintain larger responsibilities. They use early interactions as assessment opportunities for determining who possesses the reliability required for deeper professional and personal relationships. What makes this particularly challenging is that Capricorns often extend significant flexibility and support to people who demonstrate genuine commitment to keeping their word, even when circumstances make fulfillment difficult. They distinguish between people who encounter legitimate obstacles while maintaining communication and seeking solutions versus those who simply abandon commitments when maintaining them becomes inconvenient. Their emphasis on promise-keeping connects to their broader understanding that successful relationships and organizations depend on predictable behavior patterns that allow for effective planning and resource allocation. When someone's word can't be trusted, it creates instability that affects everyone who depends on their contributions, forcing others to develop backup plans and protective strategies that consume energy that could be directed toward positive objectives. The deeper significance involves their recognition that honoring commitments serves as a form of respect for other people's time, energy, and planning efforts. Capricorns view their promises as investments in relationship quality and social trust, understanding that consistent follow-through builds the kind of mutual reliability that enables ambitious collaborative projects and long-term personal bonds that can weather various challenges and changes. Now that we've explored all 12 reasons why Capricorns have such an intense aversion to hearing nonsense, you can see that their communication preferences aren't about being difficult, antisocial, or impossible to please. These Saturn-ruled Earth signs have simply developed sophisticated psychological filters based on years of real-world experience with both reliable and unreliable people, efficient and wasteful communication patterns, and authentic versus performative behavior. Their first set of concerns around time, consciousness, authenticity detection, and trust issues reveals how deeply they value substance over style in all their interactions. When Capricorns insist on direct communication, they're not trying to be rude. They're protecting their most precious resources while demonstrating respect for everyone involved by refusing to waste anyone's time on meaningless exchanges. The manipulation and substance factors we examined show how their intolerance for emotional games and superficial conversation stems from their natural orientation toward problem-solving and meaningful connection. Their allergic reactions to excuse-making champions reflects their fundamental belief that personal growth requires accountability rather than creative blame-shifting strategies. Their standards around expertise, achievement, honesty, and productivity versus busyness expose their deep respect for genuine competence and authentic accomplishment. These aren't unreasonable expectations. They're actually sophisticated quality control systems that help them identify people worth collaborating with, while filtering out those who might create more problems than they solve. Finally, their reverence for traditional wisdom, an absolute requirement for promise-keeping, reveals their understanding that sustainable success requires building on proven foundations while maintaining the kind of personal reliability that makes ambitious collaborative efforts possible. Understanding these 12 factors can completely transform your relationships with the ambitious, goal-oriented Capricorns in your professional and personal life. Whether you're trying to build stronger business partnerships, improve family dynamics, or simply avoid accidentally triggering every Capricorn you encounter, respecting their need for purposeful, honest, and reliable communication will serve you remarkably well. The key insight here is that Capricorns aren't rejecting human connection or meaningful conversation. They're simply demanding that interactions meet certain quality standards that actually benefit everyone involved. Once you understand and respect these preferences, you'll discover that Capricorns can be incredibly loyal allies, generous mentors, and valuable long-term partners who will invest significant energy in helping you achieve your own goals. If this deep exploration of Capricorn communication psychology has given you new insights about yourself or helped you understand the Capricorns in your life, we need your help to keep creating this kind of detailed astrological content. Please subscribe to Secret of the Zodiac right now and hit that notification bell so you never miss our daily uploads. We're working incredibly hard to bring you the most comprehensive zodiac analysis available anywhere on the internet. Your engagement makes all the difference in our ability to reach more people who are hungry for this level of astrological insight. Hit that like button if this content resonated with you. And please take a moment to explore our other videos where we dive just as deeply into every zodiac sign's unique characteristics and behavioral patterns. Most importantly, we need to hear from you in the comments section. Tell us about your personal experiences with Capricorn communication patterns. Are you a Capricorn who finally feels understood and validated? Have you recognized these traits in the Capricorns you know? Share your stories about successful and unsuccessful interactions with these earth signs. Your real-life examples help build our amazing community and provide valuable insights for other viewers who are trying to navigate relationships with Capricorns. If you found genuine value in our content and want to help us cover the costs of daily video production, please consider supporting us through Super Thanks. These financial contributions directly enable us to maintain our consistent upload schedule and invest in the research and production quality that makes our astrological analysis so comprehensive and accurate. Every contribution, no matter the size, helps us continue bringing you this level of detailed content every single day. Your support through Super Thanks would make an enormous difference in our ability to keep delivering the in-depth zodiac insights you've come to expect from Secret of the Zodiac.